Hey guys, welcome back to the JPM Performance Shop Tour Day. We are just a couple of days away from going out to Heartland Park, which is our local race, which is always fun because if you want to, you can sleep in your own bed if you're from Topeka, but we take the RV out and hang out the whole weekend and all that. But this week's kind of been Heartland Park prep, so cars have been coming and going, but I'll show you here in a minute what I've mainly been working on. But we are here right in the middle of May 19th. So getting ready to load up, and we'll head out tomorrow to go out to the track for the test day. Got some customers coming in to do some testing with, and so that's kind of what we're getting ready to do, and still need to finish up the BMW. We'll talk about that. But mainly the last week, what I have been doing is working on the next engine. So this is Ward Marshall's engine. So this is a 99 Miata 1.8 engine that I'm building for his de-prepared Miata. So in de-prepared, you can do a lot of cool things. Unlike road racing, soloists need to build torque in their engines. They can't just run from, say, 6,000 RPMs to 8,500 RPMs. They have to come off the line, come out of these really tight corners. These guys get going in first gear and get into second gear, and sometimes they just leave it in second gear depending on their rear end ratio. So this engine needs to make really good torque as well as good power. So these are very custom cams that actually ended up designing when we were doing Perry Simon's de-production engine, and doing a little bit of a copycat on this engine for Ward. But you can see we've got shim under buckets on these lifters. Unlike the last couple of engines that you've seen, the shims are actually underneath these lifters. So when you're setting these cylinder heads up, you have to put an initial shim in, install the cam, check all your lash, pull the cam, check everything, and make sure that you have a million different shims. I actually have quite a few shims, and I also have a tool for grinding the stems on the lifters, so that works out pretty well. So as you can see, coming right down to it, the cylinder head's on, just got the cam gears and the timing belt on. One of the things I wanted to talk to you guys about today is a slight difference that I will do between a solo car and a road race car. When you're running your engine for a long time, like on a road course, these engines were initially designed to be cross-flow engines, which means the cold water from the radiator comes into the bottom here and then will come out the back. Well, in a Miata, what they did is they put this cap back here and they ran into the heater core and then back around and down to this port right here. So for racing, and even for road racing or soloing, the first modification that I do is weld this port up, the big port, as well as the little port. The little port from the factory came up and bypassed some water so it would come into the thermostat so that the thermostat would open. One of the first things I like to do is block these off, flip this over, so we can run a very simple 90-degree hose. If you've ever worked on a Miata, you know that they have a hose that comes around with a metal piece that bolts to the frame, and then another 90, and then it comes down into the radiator. So by flipping this over, you can put a really simple 90-degree hose on there. So that's the first thing that we do. And obviously in the back of the head for this engine, this needed to get welded up as well. So for a road race engine, what we would do is we would block the front of this off. So this would either have a cap on it, or as some of you have seen in my other engines, I like to cut these off, weld them up so it's flush with the front cover. But this one we're actually going to run the stock thermostat housing up here, basically because their runs are only about 60 seconds at a time. So you can really see a difference in temperature and water temperature between the front of your engine and the back of your engine if you run it on a road course or for any extended period of time. So if you're interested in something like that, Google Miata coolant reroute, and there are tons of DIY kits as well as kits you can buy, which the last 2 engines that you guys saw that I finished up for the Josephs down in Tulsa had, because those are road race engines. But looking pretty good here. A little bit more restoration to do on the valve cover, and be ready for him to visit us here in a couple of weeks. So all in all, looking pretty good on this motor. So rolling around this direction, you can see that the shop, when it comes to cars, is pretty empty this week. That's because the MGA that was here last week left, and down here we have Steve Johnson's STL Miata, which is completed, and also got a new transmission and rerouted some of the oil lines, so it is ready to go. 100% ready to go. Kind of using the dyno bay as my holding pattern for this week. Also got a brand new Mach 1 Mustang, and pretty cool car. This guy's from up in Oklahoma, and he is running the time trials event this weekend at the racetrack. So there's going to be a bunch of cool cars, street cars, I call them street cars, running the time trials this weekend as well. So we kind of have a dual race this weekend where you've got a majors race with you know, our kind of road race cars, and then there should be a bunch of time trials guys out there as well. So just about done with Eric's car. We've got one change that we're going to try on the dyno later this afternoon, which will be a different trigger wheel tooth pattern. So that trigger wheel should be here, I would say, in the next hour or two. Get that on the car, get this thing on the dyno, because we got to go to the track tomorrow. So getting really close on that. Next week we will be doing obviously a Heartland Park recap on what happened over the weekend, as well as by then I will be well into disassembling all of these engines. So actually do have some more actually coming, but the aisle of engines will be emptied out next week. So as far as the BMW goes, I did finally get all of the cables that I needed to try and diagnose my radio problem. So I've got one more power wire to run here for the cable that comes off that actually goes to your helmet. Going to do some testing on this afternoon, and then all the car needs now is to be dropped on the ground and final cleaning, and off we go. So that's kind of where we're at this week, guys. Next week we'll have a lot more to talk about. Like I said, I've been pushing really hard on Ward's engine this week, and that takes a lot of time to get all that stuff completed, but have really enjoyed all of your guys' questions and comments on the channel, so keep that up. Always happy to answer questions and get some feedback. So hope to see some of you out at the racetrack this week, and then next week we will be also starting preparation for the Ozark weekend, which is in 2 weeks. So we're going to knock a couple of quick race weekends out here in the next 2 weeks, and should have some really good footage and hopefully some good audio, and we'll kind of go from there. Thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you next week. Hope you're doing well. Take care.